Hello, and welcome to the I Love You But podcast. I'm Heather, and this is my sister,
Rian. Each week, we will revisit relics of our childhoods using our multiple master's degrees
to critically evaluate the crap that consumed our misspent youth, so join us.
Sisters, latchkey kids, cuspers, and lazy feminists as we look back at our past to say, I love you, but...
So this week is another special episode after our last week's Father's Day special episode. We are celebrating Pride.
Woo!
We're bursting with it. We love it. It was difficult to come up with material because I think recently I tried to explain how the podcast works, but essentially we're covering things that we watched during the 1980s, so it can be older than the 80s, but it can't be newer than the 80s. There wasn't a whole lot of representation in the 80s and before, even.
Not positive representation.
Well, and the representation that was there typically was not positive representation as well. So we decided to go with TV. And we are going to talk about Brothers, Showtime cable TV show. And we're going to talk about Facts of Life. And we're going to talk about Facts of Life first because, quite honestly, we didn't really like it that much growing up.
So boring. I believe at the end of the last episode, you said that this was like one of the longest running television shows.
It's one of the longest running TV shows of the 1980s because it started in 79, it ran to 88. So they had 9 years.
Jesus Christ. So boring. And we watched 2 episodes.
I wrote down not much and then 2D question mark.
Yeah, I think I wrote 2D for a while. I also remember that, so the actress that played Blair, I remember that she lived in, I don't know if she lived in Denton or she lived in one of a city outside of Denton. And she was like a Weight Watchers member.
Oh, really?
Yeah.
Oh, that's interesting, I guess.
And I don't know why, but I remember that, and maybe she came to a meeting in Denton once or something. I don't know. But, yeah. That's all I got.
The Blair Watch Project.
The Blair Weight Project. I don't know if she still is or whatever. Yeah, but hopefully I didn't just out her for being fat.
I think many people struggle to maintain a healthy weight. That's just a fact.
Is that it? Of life. I feel like we're going to do that a lot.
So the reason that we're covering the Facts of Life for Pride, when a lot of you might be going, there's nobody gay on the show. There's no openly gay character on the show. Arguably, however, Jo Polnicek is coded as a lesbian, arguably. And I found a wonderful podcast called Gayest Episode Ever. And episode 124 is called Jo Polnicek is a Lesbian Heartthrob. And they covered the New Girl Part 1 and Part 2, which I guess is when Jo joined the Facts of Life. And Jo and Blair had a very contentious relationship. They have a librarian and Facts of Life scholar, Erin Fletcher, on this episode. So
I'm sorry, a Facts of Life scholar?
Why are you hating?
I'm not hating. I'm just, that's like more boring than being a regular librarian.
Listen, this is supposed to be about love.
Oh, shit.
This is the Pride episode, bitch.
You know what? This is just proof that you literally can be anything you want to be.
That's true.
You can make up a job for yourself. And we know other people that have done that. So
anyway, if you're interested in Jo, you could definitely check out this episode. You could also listen to the Gayest Episode Ever's first Facts of Life's episode, which was called Blair Warner is a Homophobe. You could also check out the L Chat, which is a message board charting the longstanding history of queer women shipping Jo and Blair. So there are people out there that want them together. Blair? Is that?
Shipping?
Yeah, shipping, relation shipping.
Oh.
You ship people.
Okay. You like create relationships for them.
I'm a Buffy Spike shipper. I want them together. I was really glad when they got together. And watched Sarah Gilbert tell Lisa Whelchel on The Talk that, yep, Joe was gay. So there you go. We didn't come up with this, but we felt like it was maybe a good place to go. We happened to pick 2 random episodes that were Joe focused that both actually deal pretty comprehensively with gender roles. So
yeah. Well, okay, so here's my question.
Yeah.
So is she gay or is she gender nonconforming? Like, what can we say definitively? And what does it mean to be gender nonconforming? Is that not what this podcast is about? Because I think I told someone the other day that I was gender nonconforming, and I feel like maybe, I don't know if that's...
I think in some ways you're gender nonconforming.
Yeah, because we're talking about who are you?
I like saying gender queer, but you can say gender nonconforming.
But I think so in my mind, gender nonconforming doesn't speak to sexuality.
Neither does gender queer.
But I feel like for other people it would.
Does it?
I feel like the word queer, for most people...
To me, gender and sexuality are just separate things.
Well, no, I know that. But I'm talking about when I say it to somebody else, or how other people who may not be as woke and educated to the nuances of gender and sexuality. And you know what's funny? So we were doing this exercise at this meeting. You remember I had to go to that all-day meeting? And one of the activities, and we emulated it, that we're supposed to do since, where it's like, who are you? Who are you? And you just keep asking this person for like, 30 seconds or a minute or something. Yeah. And then it's like, what groups do you identify with? And so I think I said like gender nonconforming, fat, and the one that she asked about or said something about was the fat one. Like, didn't even like mention. Right. Yeah. When it's like, and she's on my Facebook, so she knows that I have that I'm in a heterosexual relationship and I have a kid and, whatever else. But it was like, she's like, I think it's so interesting that you said fat. Most people hate hearing that word. And she's also someone that, like I think she had mentioned that she had lost a lot of weight or something like that. Okay. Maybe she just didn't want to touch that hole.
I think a lot of people don't want to touch that hole. And it's because they don't go near that hole.
You can touch whatever hole you want as long as someone's giving consent.
That's right. As long as the hole consents.
As the hole consents, you can touch it.
We embrace holes here. I think that because gender is a fake binary, people don't know how to talk about it. As clearly pointed out in the episode Joe's Cousin. Yes. Where poor Joe's cousin is basically like, I want to wear a dress sometimes, and I want to be a mechanic.
Yeah. Flirt with boys and go on dates and wear makeup.
Yeah, her brothers who are wearing the tightest blue jeans.
Such tight jeans.
How? I mean, Daisy Duke.
Where did they put it? Like, that is some drag queen level tucking. Drag performer level tucking right there in those jeans.
Yeah. So Joe's Cousin is, okay, so Facts of Life is a television show that ran forever, about a bunch of girls. What?
I just heard something in my headphone that wasn't you or me. It scared the shit out of me. I was like, who's talking to me? I'm hearing voices. Fucking autoplay. That's okay. I thought Zeb was like right behind me whispering something.
I thought you saw a spider.
Oh my god. It's a fair assessment. Did you not hear it?
Yeah. But I was too busy being distracted by your reaction.
Sorry.
We're not editing that out.
Okay, continue. The Facts of Life.
I want the full tapes of all of this. I'll edit it. So, yes, The Facts of Life is a spinoff of the show Different Strokes. Ryan's making a face. It had several failed spin-offs of it, where they tried to cash in on the, I'm sorry, but I don't understand, popularity of The Facts of Life. And it was basically about a bunch of girls who have nothing in common and go and live at a boarding school, a private school.
Okay, are they in high school or are they in college?
They're in high school.
I couldn't figure that out.
And I don't understand how it lasted for 9 years, because that's not how long high school is.
Or college. I mean, maybe.
So it was a lot. So there's this Jo Polnicek, and she has family. And Jo is gender nonconforming for sure. She gets a job working in an auto shop. And her cousins and her Uncle Sal all also work with cars and understand cars. Yeah. So there's an episode where Jo goes to visit because her cousin Terry is having a birthday.
She's turning 14.
She's turning 14. Why are you so mad right now?
Because of what happens later in the episode.
Oh my goodness. Rian's really mad. I started off being annoyed because she had to mediate conversations and things that were happening between her older brothers and her dad. And I was like, why is she having to do this? Like, this isn't fair.
Because their mom's dead, Heather. Duh.
Okay, all right. Yeah, I had a lot of problems with this episode was a lot. I made a lot of notes.
Yeah.
I didn't like that Terry had to prove her femininity. I did love that Jo just says, like, she can't help her cousin with makeup because she's like, I just brushed my teeth and go. Oh, Jo, I love you.
I know. Well, and I love that they call Blair on a payphone.
Yeah.
And is trying to tell them how to put on makeup over the, like, landline phones. And I'm thinking about how, like, today...
TikTok.
Girls can just fucking get on their iPhones and find 8 million different ways to put on makeup. Like, can you imagine someone trying to explain to you how to put on makeup over a phone?
Yeah. Yeah. And so like I said, I identify as genderqueer, but the problem is I don't ever have to come out because in our society, a woman can dress like a man.
Yeah.
And nobody gives a shit.
Yeah.
So I do that all the time. And nobody gives a shit. But I also wear dresses and other things. You're making a face.
Well, I'm making a face because, I mean, yes, no one's going to raise a stink, but I will say that they still get treated differently. Like, if you are a woman who is gender nonconforming, you still get treated differently.
Well, I'm really lucky because I'm cis and all that other...
Yeah.
Like, I feel like I'm this edge case where it's hard for me to feel authentic talking about it because I've never had to do it.
Yeah.
Right? Like, I've never had to, like... I mean, I kind of did it on social media once, but, like, nobody... They were all like... Heather's being weird again. I don't know what she's talking about. Just because I didn't even know it was a thing. Like, I was just like, I'm a tomboy who wears...
Yeah. Well, and that's what they call the girl, right?
Yeah. Like, yeah. I don't know. But it was very frustrating to me because it's kind of like your book about the white women needing to shut up, right?
Yeah. Not mine. I didn't write it.
Yeah, I know. The book that you mentioned in the podcast last week. Definitely not earlier today. And we're so good at this. I felt very frustrated on Terry's behalf because it was like the family had to be ready for her to look like a girl. Yeah. And it wasn't about her family. It was about her. But they all made it about them and how they felt about it. And that is... extremely frustrating.
Well, but it goes back to that too, that it's like, it's not even necessarily, because it's further than that, it's deeper than that. It's not that they're like upset with her looking like a girl. So maybe on one level it's like, oh, you're different, you're changing. It's the allusion to her having sex.
Absolutely.
With a boy.
Right.
Who's like 20. And that's what I got mad about when I was like, she's 14, that it's like this 20-year-old boy who's like, you look so good. I'm like, good, she looks like fucking Laura Ingalls Wilder in that dress. Like,
definitely true.
Like, what do you mean she looks so good? Like, she looks literally exactly the same.
Yeah, she put on makeup and put on a dress, but yeah.
Yeah. It's not like, one of those movies where it's like she's all that, where they put them in like some tight dress or some,
Yeah, which thank God. I mean,
or made her take her glasses off.
Felt bad for her that she had to wear a Laura Ingalls Wilder dress, but it was nice.
It was the 80s.
Yeah, I know. Yeah. No, it was all about, how the guy that she had the crush on was like, he's always ready for action, blah, blah, blah. But it's like, Terry can't date. Like, why is it okay for him but not for her?
Yeah. Oh, and they loved him and like all that stuff until he turned it on the sister, right?
Yeah. And then one of the brothers, nice girls don't throw themselves at guys. I threw up.
Yeah. Yes. And then I do like that she used that line, which is like so kind of, I don't know, controversial or conflicting right now, where she talks about like, well, what about all those girls that you didn't come home the other nights with? Like, right. They're somebody's sister. Right. And like that, like idea that's like, well, what if it was your sister? What if it was your, like, and you shouldn't have to think about that. Like, you shouldn't respect women because of the women in your life. You should respect women because
it's the right thing to do.
And by respect, I mean not assault.
Right. Yeah. Which somehow came up watching Mary Poppins last night. Very strange. She's singing about how nice it is to be with Bert because he's not assaulting her. Yeah. And it was frustrating in the episode because it was basically like, well, you can be this or you can be that, but you can't be both things. See, yeah, and when they started gaslighting her like that, like, was that like a attempt at reverse psychology? We're like, okay, well, if you want to start dressing and being a girl, you can't work at the shop and you have to stay home and cook and you can't take metal shop in school and like, was it like a reverse psychology thing? I think it was like literally... Like, you can only be this or that. There can be no... But the one brother was kind of like, nah. Well, the one brother was like, you can have it like all modern women have it, which is you're going to do all those things that men do and also still come home and cook dinner. Yeah, well, so I did think it was really interesting that in both episodes of Facts of Life we watched, the line was like an 80s woman. Yeah. Came up in both episodes, like, and have it all. Yeah. Meaning do it all. You work 80 hours a week. Yeah. Yeah. Emotional labor that doesn't count as labor. Yeah. Mm-hmm. There were a couple of things where she says she's just trying to be herself, and it's like nobody has space for that. Nobody wants her to be herself. They don't understand what it is. They can't accept it. And then she's like, it doesn't have to be such a big deal, does it? It's like, no, it really doesn't. But it was in 1984 and it is now. And I mean, listen, I know if you're listening to this, you're already on the side, but like, it doesn't do us any good to have these strict, you're this or you're that. Like, you can be anything. Just don't hurt people. Yeah. You can be a Facts of Life librarian. You can actually like the Facts of Life. We don't hold it against. You can be anything. If you can make a living being a Facts of Life expert, you can be anything you want to be. But definitely growing up, to bring it back to Dad, since this isn't the Father's Day episode, I, especially once I got to junior high, I definitely trended more toward like I would steal his flannel shirts and then wear them with t-shirts of bands that I liked. Yeah, in your grunge phase. Yeah, in my grunge phase. Basically once I hit that, I never wore dresses. I never wore skirts. It just didn't happen. I was always in jeans. Yeah. I remember Dad all the time just being like, oh, you're going to have a pickup truck. Oh, yeah, no. He constantly made jokes about both of us being lesbians. Yeah. Yeah. Which of course I'm sure, and he has defended himself in his life of like, it was just a joke. It's like, now I wish I could do the thing where I'm like, explain to me why it's funny. Yeah. Why is that funny? Well, and even if you were just kidding, how does that absolve you of any responsibility? Right. Yeah, like his whole, it's called your self-esteem for a reason. And we call you an asshole for a reason. But yeah, I mean, it was like there wasn't the space where I could dress, quote unquote, like a guy. Yeah. But still be sexually attracted to guys. Like that wasn't a possibility in Dad's mind.
Yeah, but it's like different. But then with Mom, you still could because she was so worried about you getting pregnant.
But before that, I mean, until a couple of years ago, our mother put makeup
In our stockings.
in our stockings.
It's been more than a couple of years. But as children, every year, there was makeup in our stockings.
Every fucking year.
Like middle school, high school years.
I don't wear makeup.
No. I used to wear makeup. Now I wear makeup so infrequently now that when I do, Elliot goes, "What's the matter with your face?" Every time. The 2 times I've worn makeup, he goes, "What's the matter with your face?"
If you like makeup, that's great. I'm so happy for you. Yeah. You can have all the makeup. You can have all the makeup that my mother gave me. I'm going to tell you, most of it was Wet n Wild and it was shit. But, you know, she gave it to, and it was like it was like somehow she just thought.
And earrings.
Like it was going to stick.
Yeah.
Like somehow I was just going to be like, oh yeah, makeup. I forgot that was a thing that I could.
But the thing is, like, she didn't actually enjoy putting on makeup.
Well, she did it while she was driving.
Right? So it seemed, but it seemed like an obligation, right? And you feel like if you enjoy putting on makeup, that you would make time to do that. Right. And not, like, while you're driving the car with your children at stoplights. Mostly. Because we didn't have cell phones then, so she was putting on mascara at stoplights. But it seemed like such a, you know what I mean? So even then it was, like, expressed as, like, this obligatory thing.
Yeah.
Right?
Yeah.
And fuck that.
No, yeah. I mean, definitely if I'm going to wear makeup, it's either because I'm going to be photographed and I know the photos are never going to go away, and probably are going to show up on the internet somewhere.
And ostensibly, it does help, like, you look better if you know what you're doing.
Yeah, if you know what you're doing, it balances out your skin tone and all that crap, which is, it's great. It's wonderful. Yeah. It's not my thing at all, and I've never felt like it had to be a thing. And what's weird about it is when I talk, like I have, you know, women friends and girlfriends growing up, and if it comes up, there just gets to be this like defensiveness of like, well, and I'm like, I don't care. Do what you want to do. I'm not telling you have to stop. Yeah. Like, I'm just telling you, I don't care what your face looks like. If you need to do this so that you feel comfortable leaving your house, great. I leave my house with wet hair. I do not give a shit. I am not in the world to be looked at. Like, I'm not. I understand that people look at me, but that's not what I'm there for. I am there to get shit done and laugh at people.
Oh my god, that's so merch. That is like so gonna be some merch for us later. I'm here to get shit done and laugh at people.
Do not need you to look at me to get those things done. Like, I'm not a model.
And I sure as shit don't need you to look at me approvingly.
Yeah, that's right. I do not care. I cannot care. And if you care, I hope you can stop. I hope you can stop. I remember we watched that, like, so, you know, there was like that spate of like British shows where they'd like go put them in Regency House, and it was like a Pioneer one, and like PBS did.
Yeah, Pioneer House, yeah.
Like the women snuck makeup.
Oh yeah, they like went and buried it because they couldn't stand to live. Again, this was the American version.
This was either late 90s or probably early 2000s.
Yeah, Frontier House. That's what it's called. Yeah.
And I mean, you know, after like 4 weeks in the Frontier House or whatever, you put a photo side by side of when they started, when they were wearing makeup, and how they looked 4 weeks not wearing makeup. And I'm sorry, objectively, prettier without makeup.
Yeah.
They were.
Yeah.
Like, their skin was clean. It was nice. Like,
well, it's so interesting too, because like with my students, right? So like most of them don't like go crazy on the day to day, right? They wear pajama pants. They like might put on fake eyelashes, but so then when I see pictures of like prom or graduation, like I'm constantly like, is that like, I don't know who any of them are. Like when I see them at graduation, I'm like,
well, it's because they're doing drag, right?
I mean, yeah, like it's so much, you know, right? Like it's not, because even when you or I do put on makeup, it's so subtle. Like we're not like fucking contouring to make it look like we had plastic surgery or like shit. It's like, you know, some fucking eyeshadow and some lipstick and call it a day, right? lipstick on a pig and move on.
Quit that.
No, I just feel like I've heard that phrase a lot lately about lipstick on a pig. Maybe in some of the stuff we've been watching. And then we did talk about mom kissing a pig earlier today. So. Yeah, that's a whole other story. So the second episode.
Yes, A Woman's Place is the second episode that we watched from season 4. And Jo has a business relationship with a guy who got her the job at the mechanic place.
Yeah.
That's how she refers to it. He clearly is like all about her, and he's, super supportive, and you deserve this, and I support you, and blah, 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 blah. Yeah. And then she gets promoted to be his weekend supervisor, and all of the sudden he turns into a giant baby.
Yeah. Big mad.
Yeah. Oh, and he starts gaslighting her, because of course he does.
Oh, of course. So on this show, I feel like they're constantly yelling on this show too. Yes. And like moving away from conversations. Yes. So much. It's like people are chasing each other to have a conversation. Like,
and by conversation, you mean yelling at each other. And not only are they yelling, they all have super annoying voices. Yes. Which is why I think we didn't watch this show. Yeah. Because it's horrible.
Because Blair's like yelling about her daddy's Porsche.
Yeah.
And having to have it fixed. And yeah.
Yeah. I did like, was it Natalie who said the male ego is delicate and fragile and a pain?
Yes. I think Blair was saying that, and she's like, and a pain. Yeah. Yeah, no, I mean, Jo does refer to him as says he's a liberated guy. No such thing. Liberated from what? Like, makes it sound like fucking patriarchy is some cross they have to bear. Liberated from your own fucking privilege. Congrats. A woman of the 80s should be able to have it all.
I don't know. I wrote something that he said made me puke. I think he called her babe or something. And I was like, puke.
Tough break, babe. When so the premise is like, so she gets the job. He automatically turns into a big old whiny baby. And starts banging things around and being mad and not wanting any of her help or criticism or any kind. So Blair tells her to pretend to be dumb.
Yeah.
Play dumb. And she's like, that's stupid. And so she does play dumb and ends up getting herself demoted.
Yes.
Because she cared more about hurt baby's feelings and him being all butthurt when they'd kissed like once. Yeah. And being true to herself and being fucking good and telling him to get the fuck over it.
But thankfully Blair did come in and say like, too far.
Yeah. She was like, I told you to be, I don't remember what she said, but like, not an idiot. Like, oh, although Blair did say at one point, always let the boy win.
Yeah.
Is a rule of thumb. Oh my God. But yeah, so when she gets demoted, he says, tough break, babe.
Yeah. And then I wrote puke.
And he's like, let's go get a pizza. Not like I killed somebody. I just need things to be a certain way.
Yeah. How hard for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
Stupid boyfriend.
Yeah. That's like a friend I had once who was talking about this bad boyfriend another friend had. And she said, well, at least he didn't hit her.
Yeah, the standards are...
What? It's not like I killed someone.
Yeah. So listen, if you stand Facts of Life...
Great.
Get on ya.
I don't understand that show. Like, I don't understand. Like, I still don't know whether they're in high school or college. I guess they're in boarding school because they had uniforms. But then it's like, there's vending machines, and there's this giant, like, restaurant-y cafeteria thing, but there's no other girls, so they're living in a dorm. But where are all the other people? Because they're like setting the table, like they work there at one point, and they're like putting on aprons, and Mrs. Garrett and whatever the fuck she was doing there, like the house marm.
Evidently in season 2 she also became a dietitian.
Oh, great. And then she got replaced by somebody else. Or did she replace somebody else?
She left the show.
She left the show, and then who came on? Do you remember who came on?
I want to say Cloris Leachman, but I'm not entirely sure.
It's not.
How good would that be? I'd watch that. I don't know. Listen, if you can tell us why we should like it, if there's like a dubbed version of it where everyone has a better, less annoying voice, let us know that, because I'll watch that. And I don't care that George Clooney was on it. I'm not watching it for him.
And he dated Jo.
Oh, he did?
I think so.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, when she got her big hair.
Big hair?
Her big hair.
She had big hair?
She had big hair later in the 80s. She had big hair.
Poor Jo. All right. So that's all we got for Facts of Life without spiraling into just being bitter about everything all the time.
I hate my vodka wore off.
So now we're going to talk about a show from 1984 called Brothers.
Yes. So I think it's a tragedy that not more people know about this show. So
we had to steal it from YouTube.
Yes, we did have to watch this on YouTube, so the quality wasn't awesome.
A quick summary of Brothers, and then we can talk about what we remember.
Okay. So thank you for reminding me the rules of the game called this podcast. So this is not a gaming podcast, but there are rules. Heather is here to enforce them.
I'm here to get shit done.
And laugh at
people. And you know how you get shit done? You have rules.
You have rules. It's like, except in a hostel.
Mm-hmm.
So, there are three brothers in Philadelphia, 1980s, early 80s Philadelphia. The Waters brothers. There's Lou, Joe, and Cliff. And in the first episode, Cliff is headed to the altar to marry some girl. And he absconds. He leaves.
He runaway brides.
And he reveals to his brother Joe, so the middle brother, that he is gay. So he comes out. And the whole show, or the first few seasons of the show, are dealing with how these brothers kind of continue loving and supporting each other while dealing with this information, right? And then there is a fourth lovely character named Donald, who is the other openly queer kind of the gay Yoda, helping Cliff figure out his identity as a gay man. His gay journey. He is helping him on his gay journey.
But still not the best character.
Still not the best character, because there is also a sub-character, the waitress at the restaurant, Kelly, who has all the good zingers.
So sarcastic.
Yeah. But yeah, so that's the and it's like super, like, I love that it's, oh wait, so what do we remember about this?
What do you remember?
I remembered old brothers, a bar, queer one. At some point, I did think there were more than three brothers. Like, I thought there was like 5 of them, or like one for every letter in brothers. Because I don't know why, but like I remember it'd be like BROTHE, a brother. You know, I don't know if that actually ever happened in the entry. And then I put Italian ? And that's all I got.
I said one was gay. And I also wrote that I thought my uncle was gay because he had similar mannerisms. And again, we only have 2 uncles, but it's fine. Because my dad thought that was so funny that he made me tell my uncle what I thought.
Oh, Jesus.
And I mean, I was probably 5 or 6 because it's came out in 1984, 6 or 7, something like that. So that's a good time. But I also, in fairness to my own innocent, weird brain, thought that B. Arthur on Golden Girls was a man in drag.
You stole that from me. No, I thought B. Arthur was a man.
I think we both thought that.
Oh, and we were just like, that's cool.
Yeah, it wasn't a problem. I told my grandma. And I don't remember, she didn't have much to say about that. I'm sure she didn't approve of anything we watched.
I'm doing big eyes right now.
She is doing big eyes. Okay, what is a shame, Ryan Davis?
A shame?
Weren't you going to say something? It's a shame that, or...
Oh, no, I was saying it's a shame that... Well, I said at the beginning it's a shame that more people don't know about this show. So, okay, so it was filmed in 1982. It ran for 5 seasons on Showtime. So, 1984 to 1989. It was the first show... So, after the first season, Showtime renewed it for 2 more seasons automatically. And it was the first show to be renewed for 2 seasons. Usually it's just season by season. And so I'm trying to remember when it was. I don't know. We wouldn't have watched the show in 1984, though, because we didn't actually have cable. We only watched cable when they would do those, like, free weeks to try to trick you into getting cable.
No, part of the 80s we had cable, for real.
I only remember watching the Disney show during the free week.
I'm pretty sure we had HBO or Showtime or something at some point. Like, at some point, Dad paid for it. Because we managed to tape so much stuff.
I always felt like we just taped it during those weeks. I mean, we watched a lot of television.
Yeah, I know.
But anyway. Well, because by then because it did go into syndication. So it was, like, weekly. And then they just started showing them, like, all the fucking time. Because it was such a popular show. I couldn't find anything about the reaction. I feel like this is probably... one of the first shows to have the openly gay character as a main character.
And I mean, Dad did walk in on this and say that it was like scandalous, like it was kind of revolutionary. And so they in the mid 80s were really good friends with a few gay men, and so I was kind of like, well, how did they react? And he said that they were like happy to see positive representation.
And they loved it.
Yeah, it was like, oh, it's a show about us. Like, wow, there's a show about us. Like,
it's like representation matters.
What?
Yeah.
White gay men were the first to get it.
Yeah. Well, and so we watched the first 2 episodes. So the first episode 1 and episode 2. And so in my research, like I did some research and it was saying that the first few episodes. So it said, after the first 2 seasons, they started to downplay the wall-to-wall gay stories. But that was really what the show was about, at least for the first 2 seasons, was really unpacking and getting into, what the fact that there aren't any, like, real differences between like heterosexual mating and homosexual mating, that it's all very similar. And you even see some of that in the second episode, or the first episode or something with Donald. So sorry, I just saw my notes where Donald is so good. It's like, Joe calls him a fairy, and he goes, we prefer hobgoblin. It's so good. And I will say, like, are we allowed to quote some things even though we know they might be offensive if we put a disclaimer?
Here's the thing. Some of the jokes are jokes about gay people, but they are good, funny jokes. So we laughed.
Yeah, so then they, like, go to tell the older brother. And this was good. Like, I felt like this scene was really good. When the middle brother, who is a ex-Philadelphia Eagles football player. Yeah. And I feel like setting it in Philly, which is just such a, like, macho city. Like, not New York, not Chicago, like, Philly. And then the Philadelphia Eagles football teams and football fans is like this heightened, right? And it's a sports bar. And his other brother is like a foreman of a construction company. Like, they're just...
He looks like a longshoreman, but yeah. It looks like the guy that sells you, like, fried fish.
The Gordon?
Yeah.
The Gordon fish guy?
Yeah.
So the middle brother sits down to tell the older brother Lou about the fact that the younger brother Cliff has said that he's gay.
Mm-hmm. And that he, quote unquote, needs help.
Yeah, well, yeah. And he's like, don't go out. And he moves the glasses away and acts like Lou's going to just really fly off the handle. And so he tells him. And Lou starts to just be like, oh, well, is he seeing anybody? Maybe we could hook him up with someone. Do we know any bachelors? Da-da-da-da. That makes sense. And I'd forgotten this, and I was like, huh.
That's a way cool reaction.
I was like,
He's not making it about him at all.
yeah, like, wow, that's super. But then he's like, thinks that Joe's joking. So he's like, I love it when I take a joke and someone tries to get it on me and I turn it around and I get them back. So he thinks it's a joke. And then he does kind of like freak out when he figures out that it is not, in fact, a joke. It is true. And that he needs help in the head.
It is Cliff's.
And then, so then they talk about Donald and he said something about him and Joe goes, the man walked with a lisp.
It's just funny. I'm sorry. It's funny.
Because he did. Now, I will say that in my research, I did not see anything that showed me that any of the characters on this show, like the actors, were actually queer or gay. That they all married to women and all of that. So, I mean, you know, we can argue about if that's okay or not, but it was 1982, so how many actors were openly gay anyways?
Yeah.
So
open secret. I would like to talk a little bit about the apartment that Joe and Cliff share and how there is artwork throughout the apartment of male bodies and sports poses.
Yes.
And how very erotic most of those are. So, you know, Joe only has himself to blame. No. It was frustrating. I mean, this to me was very similar to the Joe's Cousin episode of Facts of Life, where it was all about the straight people. And, you know, it's like someone coming to you and telling you a truth about themselves that they know might make you at least change your mind about how you see them. Yeah. Perhaps you will hate them if you love them now. That is hard enough. And then straight people just have to put all their shit in the way and make it even harder. Like, just stop. It's not about you. It's never about you. It is about a person who is telling you something. And, you know, the other thing, I can't remember where I put it. Oh, I think it was on the second episode. But it's this idea that, like, they're kind of talking about the identity. And it's like, well, if you're gay, that's the only identity that matters. Like, it doesn't matter what you do for a living. It doesn't matter what your hobbies are. It doesn't matter what, like, you know, as soon as you identify as queer, that's it. That's your only identity. And everything else just falls away. And it's like, why? This is not that big a deal.
Well, and I think it's interesting, too, that it's like, you know, you talk about how they make it about them, the straight people. But then in a way, in that first episode, Donald's really pushing Cliff to, you know, own his truth and be out and proud. And he gets really frustrated with all of them. Yeah. That it's like, this isn't about any of you, that this is about me. Very much in the same way that Terry did in that episode with the cousin, where she's like, I'm trying to figure out who I am, right? Like what this means for me. You know, and especially because Cliff he's not walking with a lisp, right? He is still, I mean, he is very heteronormative in his, you know, being and his mannerisms and his existence and all of that. Yeah. But, you know, I don't know. I forgot where I was going with that. But anyways.
I liked watching the beginning of the second episode because the beginning of the first episode is cut off on YouTube, so you don't get the opening credits. Yeah. But on episode 2, you do get the opening credits, and I want to know why Succession stole the opening from Brothers. That was very rude.
So you know how the opening, it's like supposed to be the three of them singing? Yeah. Yeah. At least 2 of those actors actually did. Like, the one that played Joe was in a doo-wop group, and then the one that plays Lou was also had, like, a history of singing.
Oh, okay.
Other fun fact, the actor, Captain Gordon's Fish Sticks, he has a daughter named Fiona that you might also know as Fiona Apple. That's awesome. I know, isn't that funny? That's the thing earlier when I was like, oh shit, and you were like, no, save it.
Yeah, I'm glad you saved it.
Yeah. That's awesome. Yeah.
I forgot how much Donald loved Julio Iglesias. And I knew of Julio Iglesias in my childhood, but had never heard or seen Julio Iglesias.
I have no idea what Julio Iglesias looks like, yeah.
And it was just because Donald continually referenced
Julio Iglesias.
Yes. I love that in the 80s, marriage is a joke. Like, it's always a joke.
Oh, it's always a joke. Yeah, so apparently Lou has a wife.
Oh.
Who shows up every, some episodes, but only when they're having marital problems. Oh. Okay. Always when they're having marital issues. Yeah. Yeah, and Joe's divorced.
Yeah. With a teenage daughter who's totally like, cool, my uncle's gay, whatever.
Yeah, when she's like, is my uncle gay? And they're like, why would you say that? So at least there is one person that's like, that's cool.
Yeah. I will say that I don't know who the main, chemistry is supposed to be between on this show, but I feel like it's Joe and Donald.
Yeah. Yeah.
I think it should just be the Joe and Donald show, and I would watch it all the time.
I seriously want to go back and watch more of this on YouTube. I laughed out loud. I lulled.
But despite the...
Yeah, that didn't bother me as much as the VCR noise. So it was like someone with their phone videoing, playing old VHS tapes and all of that. So the second episode... it's just kind of a continuation of how are we dealing with this. And some of Joe's old football player buddies come into town to visit. And through the similar kind of innuendo and mistaken identity or mistaken whatever that we saw in Three's Company and is also popular in shows of the 80s, they think that Joe is gay.
Yeah.
And then one of his football friends then tells him that he's in love with him.
Oh, sweet.
And has loved him forever. And this is the same actor who played Uncle Phil on Fresh Prince of Bel-Air. So that was delightful.
That was fun.
And then when Joe rejects him, he, of course, thinks it's because he's black. Not because Joe, in fact, is straight.
Yeah. Then later he's like, oh, I knew you were straight the whole time. Like, it was very... I don't know. Very non-committal.
Yeah, the end kind of blah, blah, blah. But yeah, just Donald is great. Oh, did you decide to send her under to Dorothy? You have to flounce. And then when the guy tries to break into his apartment through that window, he's like, I need money. He's like, go sell your jewelry. Second time this week or this month. Okay. I imagine 1980s Philly wasn't a great place.
Probably not the safest place.
No, yeah. I will say, apparently there is an episode where Cliff gets attacked by two homophobes.
Wow.
And then the brothers have to go and deal with the crooked cops that won't help. So I think that would have been an interesting one to watch, specifically for Pride, or a hard one to watch. But I'm glad that we got to see shows like this growing up, and I think that it definitely impacted us. So even when, we were talking about our parents' friends, and one of them did end up contracting HIV and died when I was in the summer after 6th grade for me. Even then, I still didn't know he was gay.
Yeah, because it was it'd be well, first of all, there's not a physical marker necessarily, right? And again, with us, it's well, if I see you physically touching someone of the same gender, then I'm going to think that you're gay. But otherwise, how do I know? And Mom and Dad just didn't talk about it. So first of all, they assumed that we knew that he was gay, and we did not. And then they assumed that we knew he was gay because he died of AIDS and only gay people could get AIDS. And we're like, no, we go to school, and at school they tell us it's not just a gay disease.
Yeah, this is the Rian White era, right? We're watching these movies about blood transfusions, and it's just not just, this was the 90s, right?
We were told.
Yeah.
Our parents are weird. But I do remember that, a few years back, I worked with a woman who's very, very, very conservative. And I think she was trying to like build a relationship with me. So she was trying to find like common ground, And so she's like, when I was growing up, it was like, we didn't have black friends, we just had friends and they just came over and they were from all over the world and whatever. And I was like, yeah, that's cool. Yeah, we had that too. But, with us, it was like, we had gay friends, but, we didn't talk about them being gay. And she just quit talking. It's like, you are never going to win. It's that competition. You're never going to win that competition. Like,
oh yeah, no, like,
do not try. It's not going to happen.
I mean, I kind of like, for us, it was definitely a lot more queer influence growing up than people of color or black and brown people. I mean, we had Latino, just from growing up in the Catholic Church in Texas, right?
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, I remember it was like months after he passed, and like people came over and they were like, hey, let's watch this video of him, performing in drag as Patsy Cline. And then like light bulbs kind of like connections started like, and like I was like sitting up late in the living room. Mom comes out, she's like, why aren't you asleep? Why aren't you in bed? And I was like, was he gay? I was like, yeah. Fucking duh. Like,
you know who broke the news to me?
Who?
My 8th grade boyfriend.
Yeah.
Who is now happily married to a man.
Yeah.
With some adopted kids. Yeah.
I thought that our friend broke it to you that he was gay. I remember you saying he was gay, like, way, like, just a few years after you married him. Dated him. You didn't get married at middle school.
You're saying too many hymns. I don't know who.
I know. Sorry. Well, we're not supposed to say names. The boyfriend. The 8th grade boyfriend. I remember you, like, when you were in high school.
He did not come out.
No, but, like, I feel like you...
No.
No? No?
No. I'm not our mother. I don't want everyone to be gay.
She really wants her grandson to be gay.
She needs to calm down. She needs to calm down.
I don't know if it was Dad, but, like, I remember somebody once was, like, asked me, like, well, blah, 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 is he gay? And I was like, well, I don't know. I didn't see him fuck anyone in the ass in front of me, so I can't really speak to that.
You can be gay without it.
Yes, you can. But this was, like, a long, long time ago. I will say, trigger warning, if you do go back and watch this, in the second episode, you do hear a couple of uses of the F word.
You will. They sprinkle it about. But also, I know that on Twitter a year and a half or so ago, somebody reported that the use of the F word on Twitter had increased by a certain percent, and a very, very out person replied or like retweeted it and was like, well, I'm not doing my job then. Like, as if it wasn't enough.
Well, and that's what's so interesting to me about this word, because that's a word we grew up saying, right? So when I was in high school, and so it's very interesting, I have these conversations, I teach high school, so I have teenagers now, and we talk about, like, the words we can say and the words we can't say, and, like, they hate, they refer to it as the F word, and I'm like, which, what? Like, what?
That?
There's so many of them that you can and can't say, right? And so I talked to him about how, like, that to me, I know now, but it doesn't bother me in the way that, like, other words, like, or I physically can't say it, and how interesting that is to me that it has become offensive instead of, like, where a lot of words lose offensivity.
Yeah. No, sure. Yeah, you just made it up. I mean, I remember, it was like for a long time there was that insult of, like, gay, you're gay, that's gay, whatever kind of stuff. And I just remember, like, we would go to Target and we would see stuff and I'm like, that's so white. Like, that's the whitest thing I've ever seen. Look how white that is.
I think we still do that, though.
Yeah. No, there's a lot of white. Yeah, there's a lot of white shit.
Yeah, I remember in high school being, like, using gay as a slur, like, oh, you're so gay, that's so gay, blah, blah, blah. And being called out on it very openly and very embarrassingly. So probably not the best way to, like, raise my awareness or, educate me.
I don't think you need to get down on people for who were trying to say the right thing because it made you uncomfortable. Like, I think the best way to do something is, I know that you are a caring person and that you don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, so I want to let you know that, right?
No, exactly. That's what I'm saying. But this was like...
Most teenagers don't have that kind of emotional language.
Yeah, no, that's true. Like, most teachers will say nothing. And so I guess kudos to this person for having, you know, the wherewithal to just be like, that's super offensive, you know. But it did. I mean, it worked. I stopped saying it. So, well, for a while. There was like a reactionary of like, fuck you. You know, because my feelings were hurt or I was embarrassed or whatever.
Oh, it's so hard.
It's so hard.
Straight person.
Oh. And that was the straight person, actually, who said it to me.
You're a worse straight person.
I'm a worse straight person.
You're not even a good ally.
But whatever.
When you were in high school and full of misery. Yeah, that's a story for another day.
Every day.
Hey, thanks. Thanks for listening. That's it for this episode of I Love You But.
Yeah.
Next week, we'll go back to true fun, and have our second summer blockbuster movie, which will be Ghostbusters.
Boom.
She's gonna sing, and I already know that it is going to raise some problematic discussion, but there we go. Hey, what made you laugh? What made you cringe? What did we forget? And what should we talk about in future episodes? Definitely. I'm not saying that you need to educate us or do our work for us, but if there are things from the 80s that are queer that we miss that are good, definitely let us know. And I mean, I know there was like lots of experimental and avant-garde and movies and other things that we weren't exposed to, but we really wanted to focus on, you know, queer things that we were exposed to. So let us know your thoughts. Find us on Instagram at I Love You But Pod and on Twitter at I Love You Pod, or email us at iloveyoubutpod@gmail.com. Listener email and comments may turn up in future episodes. And hey, if you like us, help more people like us, be sure to rate, review, follow, subscribe. I Love You But wherever you get your podcasts. Again, thank you for listening. I'm Heather.
I'm Ryan, and we send you lots and lots of conditional love.